Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. I am Brendan. That is Brandon. We are coming to you guys live once again on this Wednesday. A little bit of an atypical meeting time today, but nevertheless, we are meeting. We just have a couple more weeks till we get to this 2026 NFL draft, and we are moving through our coverage of it. So, how you doing today, Brandon?
I'm doing good. You feel like, this draft process, Brendan, always starts out as one where you've spent a lot of time looking into it, and then you find yourself at times through some uncertainty and not sure what to think, and then you finally, I think, start to get to a place where you really feel like you're wrapping your head around it and understanding what it is and where it's at and the players and where they're kind of fitting into, and it's all part of the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I tend to agree. I'm almost done with my draft coverage. Again, I'm going to be kind of passing over some stuff. Some stuff's less interesting in this draft than other stuff, but we're having a good time. We are having fun. And today we are going to be talking about one particular position that I would say is of moderate interest to us as Seahawks fans. We are talking about safety. And one nice thing about this Mike McDonald defense is that there isn't a huge difference between the two safety spots. We have free safety and strong safety nominally, but we kind of need similar things for both players in a way, because that's how Mike McDonald likes to do things, right?
It is indeed. And I think just on those two fronts, number one, I think it is actually kind of a heavy need going into this draft because your depth is not good behind the frontline guys and Akata for a full season. You like those guys as well. Everybody's on a 1-year contract that is your starters. So it's something that I think you're going to need down the line. And I think to your other point, what stands out to me in looking at a lot of these guys in this draft is that you want flexibility. You want guys that have done a variety of different things in college. They're back, we go 10 years ago, Brendan. I think if you watched a lot of college tape, you'd be seeing single high safeties. You'd be seeing the pure box safeties. You wouldn't be seeing as much of the cover two shell starting to, they always say the college game goes to the pros, Brendan, but it's almost kind of like the pros have infected the college game as far as the cover two shell stuff goes. So now these guys, rather than having to pick between like 3 guys that have some fluency in doing it, we get to actually have a variety of these guys that have had these snaps mixed up across the board, including even being given a heavy amount of a number of reps in the slot and operating from there too. It's great to see.
Right. So that is going to be our main topic of discussion today. There are definitely some interesting safeties to get into. First, though, I think there's something interesting that's come up over the last couple of days, and there is plenty of reason why we as Seahawks fans should be paying attention to something happening in New York with the Giants. So to make a long story short, star, and I do mean star, nose tackle Dexter Lawrence of the New York Giants has wanted a new contract for a couple years now. The Giants seem like they're not budging on it, and he's finally had enough. He wants out. He wants a trade. And we know, I believe, that John Schneider has coveted Dexter Lawrence in previous years. We know that we don't really have a true nose tackle, which Dexter Lawrence would most certainly be. And while we are pretty loaded at that defensive line spot, I think we also know that that is a position where you can kind of add on to and just stack talent and have things go really well for you. It's not like stacking talent at a position like a tight end where you don't necessarily get the returns on that. So therefore, Dexter Lawrence supposedly expected to cost about maybe a late first round pick or even an early second round pick. Should we be plugged in?
Well, it's always about the cost to me on this, Brendan. And then you mentioned the contract, which is the big, to me, acme weight over the top of this thing that may be hovering over your head that kind of puts it down. He's got 2 years left remaining on his deal in 26 and 27. He is in a position, though, because of the bonus money, where it is only about $13 million of dead money the Giants would have to sustain to move off of him from that. So there is still a net, I believe, somewhat positive gain from the base salary that he's going to get. So it doesn't mean that the Giants can't move him then at that point. 28 years old, a guy that, coming off not great production last year, has had one major injury. I'm very interested in this deal. Yeah, this is the kind of deal to me that I've talked about that said, what you do is that while a lot of Hawk fans get frustrated with the powder dry situation of John and not spending that money in free agency and kind of just sitting there, and these are the kind of players I've often said that rather than thinking about this player or that player, just think about the type of this player that becomes available to you at some point or another, and that this always happens throughout the NFL season where situations turn and they go sideways. And now you're in a position to strike. And now you're not paying prime draft capital to get a really nice asset back in return. So when it comes to Dexter Lawrence, am I in on this? Yeah. I was thinking about the other night. I ran a mock on the roundtable show, Brendan. I ended up taking Caden McDonald at 32. And then I started thinking about it. Somebody I think put it in the chat even, where I was trying to think about it like, well, would you rather have Caden McDonald or Dexter Lawrence? And then I go, well, then the part of it I go to is I say, well, I have to keep him on his current contract through this year. He's got 2 years left on his deal. I've got to have him play out this final year of his deal. And then we put him on the extension. And then you probably also understand that that's going in tandem with the understanding that there's a good chance Leonard Williams probably retires after this year.
Right. I mean, his reward would be playing for a real franchise for a year, right? Like that would be kind of like the incentive. I'm sure he's sick of the losing.
Hunter, how can he not be, right? Your career's winding down. You're 28 years old. And hopefully he doesn't do the Garrett thing here, Brendan, but I think that if you come to him and you say, look, this is the nice thing about rewarding your players like we do, and not rewarding just our guys that we've drafted and reward them, which is the no-brainer. This is what happens when you reward guys like Leonard Williams. When you bring the guys from the outside of these other organizations, and you bring them in, and then you reward them with top-end money, and you don't hold them over the barrel in the contract. Now other players look at that and they say, okay, when you tell me now, I got 2 years left on my deal, you're going to play out this year. If you play to your form, if you play to your type, we are going to commit to getting you that contract extension with a year left on your deal. We're not the type of organization that's going to now hold you account and be like, we've got 1 extra year. We've got 1 extra, it's like, no, we know what's up here. You're due for an extension at that point. We'll pay you well. Williams' money goes off the books at that point, possibly. Lawrence's money as well, in addition to that, probably. That then frees you up to be able to afford that contract at that time, but not in the here and now. Don't you think so, Brendan? You can't be in the here and now where he says, I got to get the extension right now. No, you're going to play. You got 2 years remaining on your deal. We don't give extensions out with 2 years remaining on your contract. So if he's willing to play, then I'm willing to play. How about you?
Yeah, he didn't have his best year last year either. I think he's got to earn it a little bit, because the previous 3 years he was legitimately like close to Aaron Donald level in terms of dominance at that position, especially relative to other nose tackles in the league. But last year he had like half a sack, and he played all 17 games. The year before he had 9 sacks in 12 games. So I want to check in and make sure that he's not just checked out on football.
Agreed. Yeah, I think it's a good way to go. And that's the nice part about where the contract's at, because you can come to him and say, well, there is 2 years remaining. And you did just, get paid in, what was it, 2024? You got paid. So you got to wait on this one. If you want us to rescue you from New York, you want to rescue you from NFL hell, well, then you got to give us something, buddy, on the other side of it.
Right. So let's say it's like pick number 32. So our first round pick this year. And let's say maybe you throw in, because you're trying to clear a logjam at that point, if you throw in Jarran Reed and then the Giants give you Lawrence and maybe like a 5th round pick back. Is that something that you'd be down with?
So you got to go first, Jarran Reed, and then you get a 5th round pick back?
And Lawrence, of course, but yeah.
So I don't think Reed's going to carry any weight back in trade return like that for the Giants. I think you're looking more Riley Mills.
Okay. Yeah, that was the other guy I was going to ask about, because Mills might have a little bit of value. I mean, my point is I'm trying to clear the logjam, right? Because if you get Lawrence, then you've got 5 defensive linemen that want to play in a defense where most of the time you're a nickel. It doesn't add up. So you got to get somebody there.
Sorry to interrupt you. What if you get a creative deal like this done where you go, okay, here's a 2nd round pick this year. We'll give you Riley Mills, who we had a top 50 grade on last year, if not for the injury, and you might like him a lot too as well. And then we'll throw in a future 3rd round pick next year. Then we keep the 1st. We don't decimate our draft capital this year fully at that point. What do you think?
Not bad. I just kind of like the idea of giving up the 1st this year, because I don't value it that much, because this draft is not very good. That's kind of the idea. But the Giants could be looking at things in the same way. They might look at this and go, well, we don't care about a 1st round pick that much this year because the draft is not good.
That's true. I completely understand going that way with it too. I'm not a hardliner on this one, but it'd be cool if you can find kind of that creative where we don't have to give out that max compensation. And at that point, you're giving them a real late 2nd round pick and probably real late 3rd round pick next year. And that's at the centerpiece basically of the trade for the most part. So I think it's going to be an interesting deal to see how it moves along here, especially as we have a couple of weeks leading into the draft now, where if the Giants are going to move him, you're going to want to move him before the draft. And hard to see from their perspective why you hold on to him. I mean, you're going to pay him after this year at 29 when you guys are still trying to go through a year with Harbaugh there. It just kind of feels like to me, it makes all the sense in the world, much like the Raiders did with Crosby, of not just to move him to us, but just to move him, period.
Right. Right. So definitely interesting stuff here. I would be pretty in on it. So I think that's about our position on it. We're both paying attention here. The fact that it's already been announced that his value is expected to be around a late first or early second is exciting. That makes it very different from the Max Crosby thing where the cost was going to be a lot higher. So pay attention. I like it.
I do too. It shows you the difference of value there on the positional value that exists there, because the guys are almost the same age, so it's like it just is it is what it is when you play that way. And I like the thought of getting him. You did mention you're getting him down where he's coming off not the best of performance. That means you don't give up great draft capital, but I've said it's the prey on the weak strategy of John Schneider, Brendan, where you go out there and you target these great players on bad teams that have had their soul and spirit beaten down. And now you give them wings, man, like Red Bull, And now they're like, what do you get now as far as that player who still has a lot of meat left on the bone, still got a lot of tooth left to go out there and bite?
Yep.
So I like the strategy by John. It's worked quite well in the past.
Yeah. All right. So one note, this stream is being sponsored by Prize Picks. We will talk more about them a little bit later. And we also have some early donations on the show on your side. This is William Tarkowski with a super sticker that we cannot see over here on StreamYard, but I'm sure it was a very cool super sticker. And we also had this, a $2 super chat from William Tarkowski with no message in it, just the $2. So thank you, William.
Thanks, William. Appreciate you.
And then we have this. Thank you for the $5. Hey, B, if Schneider made a pick in the draft and he was high, what pick would it be?
Ooh, if he's meaning is if he trades up, is that what you think he means on this one?
I think he means high on some kind of substance.
Be have made a pick and he was high. What pick would it be?
So it would be a player that has a really funny name. So who has the funniest, most interesting name in this draft? The Penn State interior lineman Olivega Ione, maybe.
Yeah, that might be one.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm still confused on the question. So, and he was high. What pick would it be? So he's meaning like if John was high, like he was baked or something?
I think that's what we're getting at here. That's what I took away from it. So maybe he'd take R. Mason Thomas because he thinks it would be funny to try to make Mike McDonald work with a player like that.
He'd take Daryl Jackson Jr., William, because he just likes the thought of the lineage to the father with playing here in Seattle.
They are.
You just
are
think
they
that
related?
was cool.
Are they related, by the way?
I thought they were. I thought I looked up the.
No. I haven't looked that up. I don't know. I assumed it was two on the nose.
I need to look it up now. You got me questioned.
Yeah, it's like the dude weighs about as much as two of his fathers. So I was like, there's no way.
I know. He definitely, Oh, he's not the son. I'm wrong. Well, then that's that's how he's high, because he's so high he didn't even look into it. He just says he's got the same name, so he's got to be the same. That's my bad. I've been saying that for a while.
Davison, I used to do that. Remember when our special teams coach was Brian Schneider? I thought he was related to John Schneider.
I know. It's oh my gosh. That's hilarious.
Maybe he'd draft another quarterback. Maybe he'd draft Nussmeier in the first round or something just to screw with people.
You never know. John can get a little wily on draft day from time to time.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Adaxon, thank you for the $1.99. If Baines, Downs, or Love fall, do you see us moving up?
Well, I think that this is where Addicts, it certainly is one where, number one, on the front of it, if there's three players that I would target and identify separate from any of their players in the first round to say these would be Seahawks players that they would gravitate towards, you hit the nail on the head with those three. No doubt about that. One of them kind of can fall into like 10. And now the value to move up from 32 is not as great as it would be to move into the top 5. It could make a lot of sense kind of from the outside in looking at it. The tough part for me and Brendan, as we've predicted through the years on this, as we've often been asked this question about moving up as we get close to drafts, is it gets very hard with John, who seems to operate with almost a religious fervor when it comes to his unwillingness to trade up in a first round. He will trade up in second rounds and third rounds. He'll trade up in every other round of the draft. And he'll give up good draft capital sometimes to do so. But as he showed with the pick last year and moving up for Emanuel McNeel-Warren. But he just will not move up in the first because I think he thinks the cost is too great. I think the one thing that has it interesting for me, Brendan, and I don't know if there's any truth to it, people were shooting down this, that Caleb Downs might have had something that didn't check out with his knee. And that if that happens, already being at a devalued safety position, does that then allow him to maybe fall a little bit further where everybody's like, well, no doubt he's getting in the top 10. And it's like, well, then the knee hits and it's like, it's sort of the Will Johnson thing from last year. And then does he potentially fall down enough to a point where Seattle would say, okay, now it's down to 18, 19 he's drifted down to, and we'll take the risk on his knee. If we get 4 years out of him and his career's done and it's a good 4 years, fine. He's a phenomenal fit to our defense. He's great. So I do wonder on that one where the cost would just get maybe so low where John would be like, I've got a top 5 rated grade on Downs as a player in this draft, and I'm not as worried about the knee for the reasons I just gave. But I'm open to all of them. I love all those guys. I think that it's just hard with John, isn't it, Brendan?
It just doesn't seem like something he would do. I don't think so. I think that he operates from a different place. It's like the Green Bay model, right? Green Bay doesn't do this either, and that's where John Schneider comes from. So I'm comfortable with him not doing it too. I don't think it's a bad idea. I think that is something that can burn you. And you could argue that in the past, when we tried to do things kind of like giving up a lot of draft picks for one, golden egg, it hasn't worked out great. So I understand, but that doesn't mean it's always bad. Look at the Rams with Stafford. They gave up a lot of stuff to get Stafford. It's worked out great for them. So
Julio Jones trade, a couple way back in the day of the Falcons, kind of that kind of move at that time, and that worked out great for them too.
Yeah. So yeah, probably not, but I might do it I might be willing to do it if that's the question, I guess.
Yeah, it's all about cost, a little bit erratics, but I think it is that you, like you said, you did target the 3 guys. I would not have a long list of guys where I'm like, and for this guy, no, it would be kind of these 3 guys for kind of different reasons. But if the value dropped, if you could get him to where you don't have to give up those prime pump prices you typically have to pay if you want to move up that high in the first round, maybe this would be the year that John does it.
Mm-hmm. Adexon, thank you for the $1.99. Value on this class seems low, so trade up is possible.
It is. I think it's on the. Yeah, it's valid. It does have to be addicts to the point then that the cost to trade. It's like an acknowledgement. The team you're trading up with goes, okay, we know that this is not a great draft, and you're coming up to get a guy you like, but we can't sit here and act like you're coming up to get a blue chipper like you would in other years where you're going to be trading up to. We got to act like we're kind of picking it 19 in the first round, and that's the value that we can hope to get here. I think from that standpoint, yes, if it played out like that, there's no guarantee it will play out like that, but if it went that road, I could see it kind of going like that, addicts. But it's also kind of, you can do the flip side of it too, where you say, well, the players aren't good enough to trade up for because this class is so low, especially in blue chippers.
Right. It cuts both ways. The other teams are not stupid. Maybe the Cleveland Browns, but other than that.
There's a couple in there. I think we can toss a couple in that pile.
Yeah. And did you see the Bill Barnwell trade that he suggested between the Seahawks and Browns, the draft picks?
What was it? No,
I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's like we traded back from 32 to 39, and then we got like a 3rd and a 5th back, and it was like, man, the Browns would have to be pretty stupid to agree to that, I think.
Geez, that's going to be a high 3rd round pick too.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd do that. John, that's a rubber stamper for John.
Yeah. It was a lot of people even commented that like the Browns are not that stupid. Like, come on, like they're stupid, but
I wouldn't think so, man. But they might be thinking too. Like they've come in those 2 first round picks in this draft. They're sitting there just thinking, we can do what we want here.
I mean, look at what Atlanta gave up to the Rams to get somebody who's going to be in the prison football league next year.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you get these guys going up and they start getting multiple picks, and now they start getting really weird. I think the Jets are. I keep maintaining. I think Ty Simpson at 16 is that's as far as he probably falls in this draft. That's probably his ceiling in this draft as far as he goes. And it's partly because the Jets have 2 first round picks, and they can say, well, we took our Sonny Style, we took our Averill Reese, we took our one guy. This guy was the bonus first rounder that we had. So it's like we can just take a quarterback. How teams do that crap. It's where it's like it's less conviction of the quarterback, and it's more of like, well, I mean, considering how many assets we had, why not just throw it that way? Why not just toss it to the wind and hope?
Mm-hmm. Joseph Miller, thank you for the 5. I'm excited to see what Riley Mills can do without considering Lawrence trade. What are your thoughts on him long term? I feel like I need to see a little bit more from him. It's tough because when we drafted him, I kind of shrugged because I was like, well, he's not a nose tackle, he's a 3-tech, and we're loaded up on 3-tech already. And then he barely played last year, so I want to see more. But there's definitely potential there. I do like him, but right now there are not going to be a ton of snaps for him.
Yeah. I did like a lot of what I saw from Riley Mills. Of course, we've got the play where he bull rushes Wilson in the backfield. That's the one we were all really as at the forefront of our mind last year. And it's an impressive play. Let's also remember he's probably taking the guy that's going to be probably the center for them next year. And it is a center in that you took a center on a ride. And that's what you'd expect a 3-tech to do if a guy's playing that. But it was still really impressive. He's got some legit strength. You can see it in his Wreck-It Ralph arms that he's got out there on the football field. But I do maintain, like Brendan does, where he is a little stacked on the depth chart right now as it stands to a degree. I'm a little unsure of exactly, what, he'll be as a player, but I did think that he flashed with some quickness and power both last year. This was a guy that's on the Bruce Feldman freak list. So when you look at him, you go, well, he's just this big, burly, brawler type guy that's a former defensive end that just added a lot of weight. But he's a guy that's also had a really explosive lower half before the injuries, before the torn ACL had hit. And we didn't have a chance to see him really fully tested at that point after. So he's a guy that now he gets a year removed from that ACL, which we know after you get about a year removed, just beyond getting back on the field, you're even stronger, even better. He's probably training this whole off season. He's a guy that they had top 50 grade on. So I think that there's a lot of reason to believe that there's some upside here that is legitimate. And they even threw him into some nose tackle last year on some of the snaps, which was interesting. So they even feel like they can trust him in there from time to time. So we will see with him, but I like him. I'm not looking to try to just deal him on the surface of this. It's more of just, I like the creative trades that you can sometimes find as a way to kind of wheel and deal. And you would have a little bit of, if you do bring in Lawrence, to Brendan's point earlier, you do end up with a little bit of then stack at that point, because there's only so many snaps to go around.
Yeah. If I can trade in my Corolla for for a Ferrari, I'm going to take that opportunity to do it, but there's nothing wrong with the Corolla.
No, and he's got potential. He might be more than a Corolla too. He's got some like some legit upside to him. He could be a Jared Allen type upside to his game, in my opinion. Like I think he can be that kind of player. So I don't know if he can realize that. We'll see, because it's, to your point, Brendan, on it, just such a small sample size of snaps to work off of. And when he was at Notre Dame, got to keep in mind too, he was very unrefined. He was just a bowling ball that was trying to break the pocket, snap in and snap out, which isn't the worst thing for us in this defense, but it's also makes it hard to quite quantify where his projection goes.
Right. I never actually saw Wreck-It Ralph, so I don't get that reference to his Wreck-It Ralph arms. I don't.
You got to Google Wreck-It Ralph picture right now. Yeah. You'll get it. It's
I don't know. I missed that one.
I think I watched it on a plane once. It was forgettable.
Yeah. Dylan Sosa, thank you for the $1.99. EMW gives me E-Man Worry vibes. Love his take. We will talk about EMW today for sure. Interesting player. I have more concerns with him than I thought I would when I first started looking at him, I think, though. I'll just leave it at that.
He's got a lot of flash, Dylan, and he's going to be a guy taken into day 2 in this draft. And I think he provides a lot on the football field. I think that, like Brendan, there are a couple things within that not hugely worrisome. Like I think they're glaring holes to his game, but there's some things that are back and forth a little bit there. But his ability to take away the ball and peanut Tillman punch, and we'll be diving into it. But he's a very good player and very deserving of going in day 2.
Right. Okay. So why don't we go ahead and take the opportunity to thank the sponsor real quick before we get into these safeties here. Does that sound good to you?
Let's do it. Yeah.
All right. So while I'm setting up here, can you go ahead and tell the good people all about Prize Picks?
Prize Picks is the #1 sports app running right now in this game, and they have been so kind as to sponsor both me and Brendan. When you utilize their code right now, HMA, you're going to get $50 back on a $5 lineup. This is an app where you can go through and pick all the varieties of options you want to go up more or less on as far as that goes with it. We've got baseball in full swing here, basketball, kind of put a full kind of ticket together. You can go out there and get yourself some money on it. It's a great little app. They've been very kind enough to sponsor us, so please do utilize it today. There are some restrictions that do apply, as it is available in many states, but still not fully in Washington. So keep that in mind on that side of it, as it's supposed to be getting out, released here anytime. You can use it on a casino within a network on a casino. And right now, these are my picks here. It's hard to say here. We're still kind of putting together our deal here, but you can see tonight we got our Mariners playing Brendan Donovan, who's had a very good start for your Mariners since coming over here. I got him at more than 0.5 total bases, and then Brandon Nimmo at more than 1.5 hits here on a 2-pick power play. So go out there. You can match this today. Utilize this app in full, please, and show some support to the show. When you guys are, again, in the casino, if you're in the state of Washington, but if you're in California, for instance, or Texas, you can use it in full. And yeah, it's a great little app. Been having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, HMA, guys. And that's for both of us. We don't have our own promo code, so you can help both of us at the same time with HMA.
Amen.
All right. So let's get into the safeties in this draft. And there's one kind of final boss here, right? There's one super studly safety in this group that puts everyone else, although this is actually a pretty good safety draft overall. There's one guy who stands out. We got Caleb Downs here. Caleb Downs of Ohio State, going to be 21 when the season starts, just about 6 feet tall, 206 pounds, kind of short arms. That might be the one noticeable limitation about his game overall. But every big board I use has him in the top 10. The aggregate last I checked had him at 8th overall. So tell me about Caleb Downs.
So Caleb Downs is a guy that is definitely fits into the model of a cover 2 split shell safety. He is a guy that a lot of people are going to talk about as trying to go, well, can he be an Emanuel type? He is not your slot safety type. He is more of your free safety, strong safety, can work a variety of that ways. He's a former 5-star recruit, a premier athlete for the position. He can fly all over the football field, incredibly instinctive. You can use him in a variety of ways, in man, zone coverage. He runs the alleyway as a tackler coming down from center field. So good, takes great angles on ball carriers. He is going to take away the ball. You're going to get your share of picks with him. He's just a lightning ball on the field. Just there's no real major, I think, limitation to his game as far as what I saw from him. I thought he was a monster in the run game as well as being a monster against the pass and coverage. Very good tackler coming up in space. I think that the part of it is that he is a safety with this. I don't think that, like some of the other guys we're going to talk about in this class, that there are other guys you look at and go, well, there is more if you can throw him into the slot and get him down there. I think this is a guy, no, you keep him more into those cover 2 shell looks. But with that said, I think that he is a really good player. I don't know if he's going to get to star status. That's the hard part about this, is I don't get the blue chip side of this. I thought maybe it was Brett Coleman that made this comparison, but the Eric Weddle comparison, I think that that's a very good comparison to make, where it's just like, think about the kind of career he had. Think about how really solid it was. Not a Hall of Fame kind, but just, man, this guy played for a lot of years, a lot of interceptions on a lot of really good defenses. And I think that that's what you have in Caleb Downs. And so I like him quite a bit as a player. I just don't think that there's a lot of holes to his game. Just don't think he has quite the, next level explosiveness, like 4.3-ish speed out there and changing. It's really good. It's like really top level, but just not quite breaking into that mark to get you into sort of that blue chipish look. Very close though.
Yeah, I think if you, and this is going to be for the old heads out there, but if you compare this guy to a guy like a Sean Taylor, of course, Sean Taylor, I mean, maybe one of the all-time most talented safety prospects ever.
Yeah.
I don't think he really stacks up. Maybe he'll be as good a player as Sean Taylor was, but in terms of the potential and the talent, I don't think it's that close. So the fact that he's kind of on the same, he is to this draft what Sean Taylor was to his draft back in 2004, it kind of highlights the shortcomings of this draft, does it not?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I think it absolutely does. And he's kind of a safety. Now, this is all, we don't know what the injury situation, maybe it's bunkus and there's nothing to it. But if we just remove this, if he's clear on the medicals, I think it absolutely tells you that, because he's just not a guy to me that quite would be, if it's in a strong draft, he'd be picking into probably the late teens is about where he would probably be landing at. And let's not forget that you mentioned Sean Taylor, it's just not a lot of safeties taken up this high. You're going to be taking up this high. It's like Kyle Hamilton's tape coming out was better. I mean, the tape was even better with him, where it's like, oh man, and a little longer, a little bigger size, right? So you could trust him a little bit more down doing box, a little bit more into that area of things. So I think that's a great point on your part. And I think it's part of why you're seeing teams kind of do some creative things this draft they would normally do, because it's not the strongest of drafts.
Yeah, but he's a great reader of plays, very cerebral. He reads the eyes of the quarterbacks well. His movement skills are good. He's a leader in the secondary. He's one of those alpha types. Somebody who really does a lot of work pre-snap to get people in the right spots. He's a good tackler, covers a lot of ground. But at the same time, like, his ball production in college was not that great. And some of that is because of the short arms, but he had like 2 passes defensed all of last season, and he played plenty of snaps. I think he missed a little bit of time, but and he didn't play man very much in college. So while he should be able to be good at it, we didn't see it a lot from him. So it's worth noting. So in this draft, I might take him in the top 5, but that's reflective of this draft more than anything else to me. In a vacuum, I think he's a mid-first round pick.
Yeah, I think a lot of it too, with the lack of the ball production, comes from that they play him a lot more to the free safety high roll at times, where he's eliminating that deep throw, and so he's just out of it's. This is part of the devaluation of the safety position at times, is that you're literally playing to the point of being a safety to protect against everything going to hell, and you're the last line of defense to come up there and clean it up. And so that oftentimes, if you're playing that position purely versus you are doing more stuff of the intermixture between the down in the box stuff, or you're sliding to the slot, like you're in on the action a little bit more of an opportunity at that point to have some more of those, ball skill moments that show out. But I think the previous year's tape shows well with some of that stuff. And I think that he's an easy evaluation.
Right. So we both like him, but I don't know if I'm trading the farm to go up and get him, even if he's there at like 10, honestly. Like,
I can understand. It's a safety. At the end of the day, you're doing this for, right? We moved 2 first-round picks and a third-round pick for Jamal Adams. So, like, if you tell me that, I'm moving up for a safety, and I can understand that. I think there's a certain point where the fall could come into play from my perspective on this. Of does he go to that 17, 18, 19? And now are we talking it being just a third-round pick to move up to go get him? That's where the conversation starts getting very interesting to me. Maybe not as much at 10, but into that range where I go, maybe.
Yeah, that's more interesting. I will grant you. All right, next up, we have another actually really appealing safety prospect in this draft by the name of Dillon Theenaman of the Oregon Ducks. 22 when the season starts. He's about the same size, maybe a tiny bit more lean than Downs. He has much longer arms, though, which is nice when you're trying to tackle. And he tested very well. 4.35 40, which is elite as far as safeties go. 41-inch vert, which is elite. And then the 1.52 10-yard split is also very good. The big boards, we've got some first-round grades. We've got some second-round grades. The aggregate currently has him, or at the very least, last time I checked, around the top 20. Over the last 2 years, he's got about 200 tackles. He's got 12 passes defensed. His coverage numbers have been good. So, Dillon Theenaman, tell me what you think.
Well-seasoned, highly analytically rated player. His game really leads, I think, with really solid instincts and intelligence, which marries nicely to the type of speed that you saw him tested with. I'm not sure that he's quite as field speed as he was tested. I mean, he literally almost basically matches just about the time. In fact, I think he even bettered Earl Thomas on the 40-yard dash at 4.35. I think Thomas was 4.37. And Dillon is not faster and he is not quicker on tape than Earl Thomas. And he's not as quick or as fast on tape as Earl Thomas. So do take a little bit of these testing times with a measure of salt. Not that he isn't very good in single high situations about being able to really eliminate a lot of the field. So I also don't want to oversell it to like, well, those are just nowhere close to it. He does have legit speed and pretty good quickness. It's just not quite to the level of where it was tested at, which might make your eyeballs kind of bulge when you first see those numbers. 6 career interceptions in his career, Brendan, but 6 of those things came in 2023. There's some really good plays on there, driving from center field on some routes to go get those picks. You got a lot of splashy plays on there that you can find on, I think, with this highlight reel, but that's partly that you're well-seasoned and you're like a 3-year starter. I do think he can operate out of the split safety looks. They even like to mix in a little bit of this sandwich cover 3 safety looks in Oregon at times, which is interesting, where I wonder if this is going to become more of a thing. We've seen Mike kind of delve into this a little bit at times where he'd be essentially the meat in the sandwich of the safeties in the 3 high shell look when they would do that. Not 3 high, 3 high shell look is basically what it is. So he'd run a lot of that, Brendan, which was interesting. He does provide some baby thump when he comes back up from center field. He can force some fumbles. I do think that there's some issues I have with him at times when you're having him climb down around the box. I don't have any worries with him and what he can do as far as a center field safety and covering some good ground back there, being instinctive, being in the right place, eliminating the deep throw. I do worry, though, about him coming down and always taking the right pathways to ball carriers, being able to get off of blocks, being a really strong tackler, play in and play out. Like not, and that's where I have some slight, not bad enough to knock him out of for me the second round, but a lot of people vaulting him up into the mid first round. I can't quite get there with him myself at that point because of some of what I see from him. I just think that and I don't think he does very good man coverage situations either necessarily. I think he's kind of more of a pure zone safety defender.
Yeah, his change of direction skills aren't necessarily there, which is what you need for man coverage, I think. And I do think he's a pretty good tackler, but he's not really a firm hitter. He's not really a hard hitter. He doesn't hit with a lot of force, and that can bring the problems that you're talking about. He kind of plays like a box safety, but he's undersized, and I don't know how that's going to work at the next level. But I like pretty much everything else about him. I think he's a leader. I think that he can do a lot of different things that you need out of a safety. I think he's got a wide range. He can cover a lot of ground. He can cover deep. He knows how to read and react. I like a lot of things about him. The problem is he just tested a little too good, and I don't think there's any way he'll be there at 32 now. I've seen some people have him going up as high as 12. Now, I don't know if I'd take him at 12, but I do think he's probably about a top 20 player in this class, personally.
Yeah, Vikings is where I'm slotting him to go right now currently. That's been the team I did a mock 3 weeks ago, and I just think they have Harrison Smith moving on shortly out there. There's a need there a little bit, and he would fit into, I think, that defense really nicely, Brian Flores' defense. So he is going to probably go higher in this draft. I don't mind him if they take him at 32, by the way, because I do have a high second round grade, so the value is pretty close where it's at. He is a guy that felt like he's gotten a little vaulted by the testing process, by the post college process, more than I feel like he quite should have been.
Yeah, that's definitely valid. I'm always wary of those guys, like Monroe Freeling, who was a late first round pick and the third tackle in this class until the offseason got here, and now he's maybe a top 10 pick. And I'm like, where did that come from? How'd that happen?
Yeah, we see guys start to get just a little bit too much. I mean, Ty Simpson's getting this bump now too. Like you look at Ty, look at the acrobatics they're doing, where it's like, well, that you can't actually count that last 6 games because he was playing injured. If you just target on these games here, then I mean, he's a top 5 pick. And you start doing that kind of extracurricular stuff to make the prospects work a bit for my money. There's a difference between imagination and just trying to kind of come up with stuff to make a player work or fit to a slot. And some of that feels that at sometimes, like you mentioned Freeling, like, well, how much of that is the driven need by so many of these teams that need tackles in the first round and they're just walking into this first round like San Francisco or Cleveland, like, yeah, y'all know we need tackles. Y'all know we're going to need to pick tackles early. And there's not a lot of tackles with depth in this draft. So watch what we're going to do. Y'all know what we're going to do.
Mm-hmm. All right. So if he's there at 32, I am on board. I wouldn't even hate, not that we will do this, but I wouldn't even hate trading up a little bit to get him because I do like him. But he's not as good as Caleb Downs, clearly.
No, I don't think he's as good a player.
All right. We have next up a really intriguing guy. This is one of the more interesting guys. And I don't mean that in the sense that everybody loves him. I think there's a lot of room to wonder about this guy. But Emanuel McNeel-Warren of Toledo, 24 when the season starts. He's got some size, but he's lanky. That's the thing to understand here. He's not, a lot of people compare him to Nick Emanuel-Warren, and I understand why. Emanuel-Warren, when he came into the combine, was like 230 pounds or something on top of being tall. This guy's just kind of lanky. This guy's a little bit more 6'3.5", but only 201 pounds. He's got decently long arms. And the other hang up here when you're comparing him to somebody like Nick Emanuel-Warren, his testing was just okay. His testing is fine for a bigger guy, but a 4.52 and a 1.58 split, you're losing a lot of what made Emanuel-Warren so intriguing to me. But nevertheless, that's just testing numbers. What do you think about EMW as a player?
I really like him a lot. Highest graded safety in college football last year. Wonderfully reckless force. He's one of those kind of safeties that's going to play with his hair on fire. Really come down with some aggressiveness down in the box, arrive with some maximum explosiveness. I was watching last night a play on the 22 with him coming down, and it's at the goal line, and he's got to come down there and lay a hit on a guy. And there's literally no, it's like literally the guy just like twists and falls forward. He's in the end zone, and he hits him. He puts him right to a stop in place, and that guy's not going any farther forward. He's got 8 career forced fumbles in his career, including 3 this last year. He has absolutely mastered the Peanut Tillman punch probably about as well as anybody in this draft. He was barely targeted last year, barely giving up only over just over 100 yards, credited with giving up in coverage last season, which is pretty phenomenal. His tackling can sometimes be all or nothing. He's a little bit, like I say, reckless in the way he goes about it. He's going to throw his head in there at times, which is going to make you go, what are you doing, buddy? Like that, you're a concussion walking at times with it, a little bit in what he's doing. He's also got a weird habit to me at times prior to the snap where he's always adjusting his helmet or not quite ready with his feet or not quite in right proper position. He's a little bit weird, laissez-faire in that way at times when I'm watching him. He's a little bit more boxy in his safety positioning. I'm a little bit unsure at times with him always dropping it to the depth and getting out there into single high situations and having to cover that territory. But with that said, I think he's a player that plays with a lot of juice, and he gives you a lot of that spirit that you love in this defense. If you were to bring him here, I think he's going to take away the ball at times as well. But I do have there's some worries there too. There's some reservations.
Yeah. So the Emanuel comparison, I understand where it comes from. He's very physically intimidating. He's a good overall tackler. And like you said, he's a forced fumble wizard. I think there's one cornerback in this class, I can't remember who it was, who has like 9 forced fumbles over the last 2 years. That might be the only guy in this class that is better at forcing fumbles than EMW. He's good at working through traffic, hits hard. But when I compare him to a guy like Emanuel, he's playing lesser competition, first of all, because he's at Toledo. The standard is a little bit lower than at South Carolina. He's not a stellar athlete. His change of direction skills, which also kind of applies to Emanuel, is not great. He doesn't have the straight line speed to make up for mistakes. And he can be a little overly aggressive at times. In this draft, if we got him at 32, I would be okay with that, because the draft isn't great. If he's there at 32, okay, sure. But I wasn't as enamored with this one as I thought I would be initially.
Yeah, there's no Emanuel comp to be had here. I think that's the part we got to put this out right out the gate. He ran a 4.52 with a 1.58, and he's 200 pounds, and Emanuel outweighs him by like 25 pounds, and it's a different level of athlete we're talking with Emanuel versus McNeil. But with that said, that's not to throw shade at McNeil. It's more of just that's how special an athlete Emanuel was. He's going to be, I think, a solid safety in this league. You take away the ball from the safety position from a variety of different ways like he can. I think he's got some ball skills. He can turn his head back for the ball too. I think that's got the value, like you say, in a weekend draft where it makes sense, especially as we talked about at the front of this. It is a little bit of a need. And if they love this kid like I love him, and they're going to love the way he plays, they're going to love how hard he gets after it. And you intermix that need with a player that you really do have at the highest point on your board because you just love him so much as far as that way, it does add up and it makes sense. But there are some slight reservations to him in this, but there's going to be with, I think, a lot of these guys in this draft, hence why it's a little bit of a weaker draft.
So you'd be okay with him at 32?
I'm more third round guy on McNeil.
Yeah, I ended up finding him to be a second round guy, but because of this draft, if he's there at 32 and you really like him, whatever. Like, I'm not mad about it.
I'm not going to get mad in this draft on that front, to your point of it. And I do have a high third round grade, right? Maybe even on the edge of a top second, late second round grade. I just, because there are a little bit of the worries of, can I run a pure cover 2 shell where I ask him to play free safety, and then instinctively he's going to get to the right position from free safety. He's going to take away the top side coverage. He can go make a play from up over there. Or is he a guy that has to more go live in a scheme where he gets to go live down in the box more often? Not the slot, but gets to live down in the box more often with the type of maybe more aggressive style of defense. And that's like a Niners defense that they're going to start trying to run over there now. Like, that's where I start to wonder about fit as much as it being about the limitations of the player, if that makes sense.
Next up, and this is a player the Seahawks have used a top 30 visit on. So for some reason, they want to know more about him. They like him. A.J. Holley. A.J. Holley of the LSU Tigers, 22. He's kind of oddly built. He's a little bit squat. He is heavy, but he's not super tall. Arms are a little bit short. He tested not terribly well. He did not test like you might have hoped, but he's got a lot of ball production over the last couple of years. He's got 8 picks over the last 2 seasons and 12 passes defensed. So give me your thoughts on Mr. Holley here.
He's a well-traveled safety, really fluent in every variety of different coverages that you can ask, especially zone style and working off. He can kind of at times give you a little bit of the 2-for-1 in his ability to take away a couple routes at once with some of his instincts. he is as good, I think, as a safety in this draft at punishing poor quarterback eye discipline. If you're going to sit there and stare down a target for 15 years, like he is going to go jump a route. That's where a lot of those picks came from, with those quarterbacks that get laser locked in on that first read, and he's on top of it. He's really good as in coverage, I think, more from top down versus going back, where if he can drive on routes, he can drive on in-breaking routes. That's where he can really, I think, shine and show off his best kind of stuff. I think when you start to get more into the deep side of the field, a little bit like we talked with Emanuel, he's better than I think Emanuel in my trust of this with the depth stuff. So it's not that same place, but he's just more stronger kind of coming up in coverage versus dropping back in coverage, in my opinion. I do think that he's more coverage safety in what you're bringing with him. I do have some questions with him as a tackler. There are some occasional hard hits, but I've got some issues with the pathways that he takes getting to the ball carrier, and then also his willingness to get off blocks. I think those are two big question marks for me with him, and that I just kind of knocks him down a peg, because he's not one of those guys that wants to get in on every play. He's one of those safeties that'll kind of like jog his way in over there to get over and make it look like he's kind of trying to do something. Change of direction, athleticism, also think it's kind of average. Average. I don't see a lot of from him where he works a lot off instincts and smarts, but I don't see a lot of the juice athletically for why he's being kind of pushed up as being even a second round pick in this draft by a lot of people, Brendan. And that's where I'm not quite as in on Halsey as a lot of other people are for these reasons, as I do think that there are some things to his game that are troubling as much as there's some good stuff, and the ball skills are legit, and he can lay a hit from center field as well coming down. So it's not just going and jumping the route, but he can smack a guy too. But just not the greatest of athletes from the safety position. And to be taking that in the second round to me feels a little bit early.
Yeah, he's going to be like an extra linebacker against the run. He's going to be one of those safeties more than anything else to me. Like he's kind of meant to be a run defender. I think he's a smart player. He has shown some ability to play deep, and he understands how to play from zone and understands what to look for and how to process information. But especially in a class like this, where you do have a lot of really fast safeties, his lack of speed does stand out negatively. And I don't think there's any getting around that. And even though, go ahead.
No, sorry, just to touch on, if you're going to be like that, you better be an animal as a tackler, right? Yeah. You gotta be just, okay, I could deal with that, but then this other side, I need to be plus.
And he's not a great tackler. He's okay. He puts himself in the play, but doesn't always make the play. So he's a little bit limited to me. I don't think he's a very good fit for this defense. Maybe another defense that needs a player like this, I could see like him being a middle second rounder, but for this defense, I would wait until the third. And even then I'm like, I don't know if this works for what we want.
Same. It would be a late third to me at that point if you're taking him. And I don't hate him as a player. I'm not mad at him as a player. Just doesn't quite have me kind of sold. I think there's some better options in the safety class. More potential. What
if he adds some weight and becomes a linebacker? That might be interesting.
Still doesn't tackle well enough. That's the problem. Just you got to be. If you're going to live that life, you got to live that life, and you can't be. He's kind of a man caught between two roads on that, because it's more of what he does as a coverage guy than it is what he does as a tackler, in my opinion. But he's not quite up level enough as a coverage guy to make you feel like you can lean on that in the scheme. So you're kind of left as a man between two islands.
All right. Next up, we've got Kamari Ramsay of the USC Trojans, 22 when the season starts. About typical average size, kind of short arms. Tested okay. The 10-yard split's concerning, but the 40-yard dash was fine. I feel like a lot of these players were stumbling on their 40-yard dashes this year, so they ended up having the bad split, but their 40 was still pretty good. Mostly considered like a third-round pick or second-round pick in this draft. Didn't really have a very good 2025. He missed a lot of time, but he has been a good player in his career overall. So hit me with your thoughts on Kamari Ramsay.
Kamari is a guy that I do have a soft spot for in this draft class from the safety position. Versatile, hard-hitting safety, who I think his best football still lies ahead. I think the 1.57 10-yard split doesn't quite capture what on tape's probably more like a 1.53 10-yard split. I call him a destroyer of worlds when it comes to out routes and throws to the flats. He drives up there from that center field position to those flat routes. And I mean, it looks like a quarterback. It's weird, Brendan, because the quarterback will see the flat and he'll go, I can throw this out here and I'm going to get that easy 6-7 yards you'll get on those kind of throws sometimes, right? When the coverage drops to too much depth. But with him, he'll give the appearance of depth And then he's coming downhill like a million miles an hour to get on top of that route, and it turns into a 1-yard gain. And he's a sure tackler coming up and arriving in space in addition to that. As well, this carried over to the out routes when you'd see people jump, he'd be in off coverage, right? And he's the safety on, let's say, the slot and off coverage. They run the out route and he jumps on top of it where it looks open for the quarterback. I just love that way he does that instinctually. And he's got that, I think, explosive drive on the ball that there's other safeties in class just don't quite have in those positions to be able to pull the trigger in those moments the way he can. He was also highly played out of position last year. Way too many slot snaps. This is going to be the same problem that I'm going to have with Jaylen Kilgore, where I say, you did what was right for probably the college team and the defense, but maybe not what was right for the player and the prospect to show him off at his best. And I think if you just kept Kamari into more of a safety position, they had the Bishop kid there at USC, so they had a little bit of, I think, some depth there at the safety position, but they probably had a little bit of a weakness at the slot, and you drove him down there. Now, he held up there. It wasn't bad down there, but it's just that I think he's more comfortable as being a safety, and he can run all of the cover two shell stuff. I think he's strong in coverage. I think he's strong as a tackler. I think he can do some of the Nick Emanwari, Derwin James, Hamilton kind of Swiss Army knife stuff. So you could have a guy here who can not only be a safety, but a little bit of a backup for Emanwari if he happens to go down to injury as well. I like that part of it too. And I just think that when watching him, I see upside to this kid. I don't think he's done developing. 22 years old. I think that there's still going to be more meat left here that's to be had. And I love it. I could like him a lot as a player. I do have a 3rd round grade on him because it's not, pristine tape necessarily. And it gets hard because you're extrapolating some of this because the fact so much was from the slot, and you're seeing at times like, he got beat in the slot against this bad matchup. Probably not purely where he should be, but he's doing his best out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's versatile. I think he's a good McDonald's safety because he can do several different things that McDonald might want a safety to do. I like how he comes up against the run. He's aggressive but controlled. He doesn't get out of control. He's not passive. It's just kind of a good middle ground. Cerebral. He's a good tackler. Like you said, the athletic prowess is not enough for him to hang in man coverage, which is why having him in the slot is probably kind of a bad idea. The injuries are an issue as well. You got to be a little bit concerned, I think, about the fact that he's missed time over the last couple of years. If you get past the injury stuff, I think you've got a really good McDonald's safety. So I went back of the 2nd round, and if you think the injuries are just flukes, I might even go a tiny bit higher than that, but I went back of 2nd.
I'm okay with that. I've got right at the top of the 3rd. The ball skills are the one thing that put him into the top of the 3rd for me, but you could definitely talk me to the top of the 2nd or back of the 2nd there, Brendan, especially when we're picking at the back of the 2nd round. That's essentially a 3rd round pick. That's what we're talking here. And so if we're talking about that's where I'm grabbing him at, or I move up 4 more spots into the back of the 2nd round because I really love him as a fit, I'd have no problem with that. I really do feel like he's a really steady, solid prospect, and you got to love those guys that kind of did the hard hat, tough thing for their team to kind of just do right for the team more than for themselves, especially in this age of NIL where everybody's bouncing around in different places, because you just watch the tape with him on the prior years when he's playing more safety and you're like, that's more of where he needs to be.
Mm-hmm. All right. Real quick here, we got a couple more super chats. Adaxin, thank you for the $4.99. Bad take, but I want the Seahawks to let the Rams burn themselves out this season and take guys that will ball out the following season like Connor Lew. I mean, it is easy to, on the surface, look at the Rams and just go, maybe we need to just let them do what they're going to do and accept that we can't keep up because we're not going to extend ourselves the way they're willing to. I understand where that mentality comes from, but I don't think it's a realistic one for a football team to have. So I get it.
Yeah, Addicts, I completely understand the thought process on this as well. And I think that this is one where there is a way you can kind of do both things a little bit to a degree on this, because like last year, we didn't all go for it. We didn't damn the torpedoes doing what we did last year. Likewise, they went out there and they, moved off Cup so they get Devontae Adams and try to make sure that they were as good as they could be there. And now they've done what they've done. And so it's just because they've made these moves doesn't guarantee that they've, taken themselves past us, which means we do still need to remain competitive in our movements and can't just, punt into next year. And with Stafford and the injury situation that he's had in the past and how old he is, and that injury there, that changes the whole complexity of their team in a heartbeat. They don't have a backup option where it's like, well, they could still be dangerous. No, they're done at that point. And quarterbacks at that age, we know that stuff can come to be. But you are right, Addicts, in the respect of after this year, both of the Niners and the Rams, you can see how both those teams are going to have to kind of see the build do a little bit, and probably are going to have to look at, instead of it being all about reloading, you're into not maybe full rebuild, but you're into a little bit more closer to that territory than reload. because of the fact you had all those contracts, the Rams hitting, potentially Stafford moving into retirement at that point. The 49ers freaking old as dirt. I mean, that's a team by that point that'll be coughing out dust every time they walk around. So, yeah, I could see why that's maybe more the time to strike. Cardinals still being the Cardinals and jerking around, and you're just sitting there able to be living on the feast factor at that point.
Yeah, but I don't think you can throw away a chance to defend your title because of that. And I think you still got to try. It's like something you might do in Madden, right? Because in Madden, you can just sim to the end of the season and be done in 3 minutes. You can't do that in real life. In real life, it actually takes a year, and you don't get an infinite number of years in this life.
And I know, again, that everyone's out there pundit lies is saying the Rams have somehow far surpassed Seattle, which I just do find laughable. It's like you had this one corner who's partly a point of redundancy now for you for what you want to do with Quinn Lake in the slot. And then you added like a league average, a little bit better than a league average corner on the other side of it. And like, maybe, do we know free agents typically tend to play to their past performance when they get a big deal? No, that doesn't typically tend to happen. Does the redundancy factor have is there a clear answer there, Brendan? When a quarter of OJ McDuffie snaps operate out of the slot, Quinn Lake's supposed to be one of the stalwarts of their secondary, but he operates and lives from within the slot. So now what happens? McDuffie's got to play more outside than he wants to be playing, or where he's at his most effective. I mean, am I mathing this math right?
Yeah, it is kind of just, it feels a little thoughtless, right? Like they're just saying, let's just get the best players we can without thinking about how this actually all works.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of that. I'm not going to say a lot, but there's a little bit of that.
Yeah. So I get it. Again, Addicts, I totally get where you're coming from. I think we got to remember last year how we came up out of nowhere. And then remember, we got that third youngest roster in the NFL, and that there's going to be some natural improvement from this team, just bringing back everybody like they are next year with that. And I think that is why I still remain. We are number one right now. We should be at the top of the power rankings. They got to overtake us. A couple of signings don't mean you overtake us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how often does the Super Bowl champions not become real life champions? The off-season champions not become Super Bowl champions. It happens 100%. All the time. I mean, who was the off-season champions last year? Minnesota.
Yeah. Yeah, it was or the Rams with Devontae Adams, or it wasn't us, and that's where it's like, yeah, it's the national opinion out there that exists, but it's like they didn't see it clearly last year. I don't think they're still seeing it clearly now, because I just don't think they're understanding, like, it's just do again that math I come back to. Third youngest roster, not in the NFC, in the NFL. The third youngest roster went out there and won the Super Bowl last year. That team's not going to come back the next year and be more improved. Think about just all the extra practices they got. All these teams that have all their practice time divvied up and chopped down. You got to practice all the way on into February when all these other teams had their guys out in Cabo, not working out, chilling, relaxing. Like, they're going to be a better team next year. They will be. All the starters you're returning across the board. And so we're still, I want to have the Hawk fans remember, like, we are still the dangerous ones here. We're not chasing. They're chasing us. Let's not forget that. That's not false confidence. That's not false bravado. That's on the back of the very things I just talked about.
Yeah. I don't mind Connor Lew, though. It's an interesting thought.
Connor's great.
I mean, hey,
Addicts, Connor's awesome, man. Sign me up for Connor's. I got no problem with him, man. He's he's got the best potential in this draft of any of the centers in this draft.
Yeah, he might be a borderline first round pick if he had stayed healthy, but if you can get him in the third now, it's like, wow, okay, we got something.
I'm with it.
Dylan Sosa, thank you for the $4.99. I heard Pittsburgh is a trade option at 32 since the draft is in their town to get the fan base excited. They do need a QB, maybe Simpson if he falls. Hard for me to see Simpson being there at 32.
So Dylan, yeah, Brendan just touched on it. Me and him have been watching this through the years, and you sense these trends and way things go every time of the year, and you start to kind of feel the signs of it, and you're like, oh, this thing's about to happen. And so me and him have been around through a lot of these dances where these quarterbacks go into the draft process and they're slated to be here. And then this sort of same act plays out, doesn't it, Brendan? It's almost like a Netflix show that just keeps repeating the same plot. And you go, oh, I know how this is going to end. And the thing with Simpson is that's how this has played out, where you can just see the over explanation for the poor performance of the year, all being charted up to his injury status, how amazing the opening point of the tape was at the start of the year. And he was doing NFL things. He was doing NFL things. Unlike Mendoza with the RPO stuff, he was doing NFL things. And this is the type of stuff, like, you just start hearing about, it starts percolating out of every reservoir, and you go, oh, he's definitely going in the first round, and he's definitely going top 16. I mean, there's even talk now of like maybe, and I will laugh my ass off, Brendan, if they do it. Maybe the Cardinals. You see what I'm saying here?
Yeah,
Maybe the
yeah.
Cardinals bite at 3. I don't think they'll do it, but I mean, that's how this stuff goes, Dylan, a little bit, where it's like, man, it's not right. It's not intelligent, but it is the way that these winds tend to howl and blow at this time of year.
I do think that there's an argument to be made that teams are getting a little bit better about this, like we saw with Shedeur last year or Will Levis a few years ago. It's not happening the way that it used to, but it still happens, right?
Kenny Pickett winning that Will Levis draft, man, at 20.
Yeah. Like I feel like the Josh Rosen stuff doesn't happen quite as much, but it still happens. And I don't know. I mean, Ty Simpson does kind of feel like a Pittsburgh quarterback at this point, right? Like the post Roethlisberger Steelers, the kind of quarterback they get, play him for like 12 games, and then they just get him out of there because they realize he's no good. That feels like the cycle they're in right now. So yeah, I see what you're saying, but it would not be good.
I will say this, Dylan, if we're there and Ty's there at 32, there is a 150% chance that John will be trading back at that point for the team that wants to go get Ty. If he does last there, to your question, that would definitely be where John would be. No brainer, no easy peasy. Just, yeah, we'll definitely do that trade. So, because there will be a team that will be willing to be aggressive at that point to go get him there. But boy, I think that's going to be hard put to see that at this point, especially as weak as this draft is. It's like, it just leads all of the, like a lot of little kindling, a little bit of gasoline on it, all the ripe conditions to create a quarterback to get overdrafted. You're seeing put together right now in this draft.
Mm-hmm. Adaxon, thank you for the $1.99. Not tank, but take more developmental guys.
Sorry if I meant let it seem like we're trying to mean that you were meaning tank. We didn't mean necessarily that you were meaning tank. We just meant staying aggressive, I think, is more of what we were trying to land. But I get what you're saying on it. And to your point on this, Addicts, that's where we come back to with me and Brendan being such hardliners when it comes to value model. And that when you're drafting, take the highest value guy you got on the board, take the guy with the upside, take the guy that you feel like's got that start, and don't be all caught up on your depth chart or filling in the needs. That's also how we want to be driven by that. And that's what should have you to take those type of guys like that. That's what took you Riley Mills last year, coming off the ACL. So that's a smart drafting approach.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me?
Good. Okay. Yeah, you're good.
But yeah, like Connor Lew would be fine. If you want to take a guy like Brandon Cisse in the first round, who is a guy who I don't think is all the way there in terms of zone coverage abilities, that's fine too. You have the ability to develop, and then you're just going to say we're going to lean on the veterans to try to win again this year. And we're going to probably go out and sign guys like Clowney or Snead or Marlon Humphrey to kind of enable that. But you can come out of this draft without getting a big rookie contributions and still have a good team this year.
100%. 100%.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next guy we're going to talk about here. I know he was barely on your board, but Genesis Smith of Arizona was the next ranked safety on the big board, third rounder on most of the big boards I use. He's pretty tall. He's got some lankiness to him, long arms. Really small hands for whatever that's worth. He jumped out of the building at Indianapolis, though. Monster vert. Didn't do a lot of combine stuff, though. What do you think of Genesis Smith as a player?
I kind of just struggled to quite get the full feel for what I kind of saw and where I said it. I liked a lot of what he did. He's a rangy safety. He doesn't shy away for contact. A little bit of a shoulder thrower on the tackle front at times, though it can work. He can liver submit. You can feel the explosiveness. So the testing times do add up on him, especially when he's getting downhill or he's driving through routes through his space. I think that he is pretty good about flipping his hips and being able to get to depth. I think he can do a variety of different things in coverage safety wise. I thought that the instincts were just kind of average. I don't think he was always engaged in the run game as I saw kind of fit with them there. I got to admit with him though, Brendan, that he was just a guy that I kind of quite struggled to quite get the feel for him on tape. I sort of de facto went into sort of like a fourth roundish graded place on him and just found myself a little unsure. He's built a little odd, 6'2", 202, but he's got some long arms in there, some ball skills. But I didn't feel like he was solid in coverage. I think he was great in coverage. I think that there was a consistency to him always when he does it and he drives through those routes and you feel him explode on routes where it's like, fall back and then whoo, he goes and takes an uncutting route, or he drives back into the center field spot. Like when he turns it on, you can feel it there, but I don't know if I just always felt it on with him snap in and snap out.
Yeah. It feels a little like Geno Stone, where the guy's pretty good ball production. The guy has the ability to read plays and coverage, but he's a non-factor against the run. Or if you want to go to a former Seahawk, Quandre Diggs. And that's okay, but it's not really okay for this defense. You want somebody with a little bit more, and it's not like his ball production was off the charts. He's got 4 picks over the last 2 years. That's okay. It's not like there are guys out there with double that or even more. So I went late 3rd round, but I don't even think he would be that here. I think that if you're going to take him in Seattle right now, it's got to be like day 3, and it's got to be like he's a special teamer. That's the way you're looking at him.
I just struggle. There's some guys you struggle with to quite get your head wrapped around, like, because a lot of people like Genesis a lot. So that's where I've been trying to kind of get my, and it's not bad tape per se. I think your points about the run are salient ones, because it's just not as good on that point of it. I think his coverage is where he's got to live a little bit and how he does what he does. And he does have good size, and he does have good length. He does have some ball skills, but like you said, it's not completely, a huge strength that he can just lean on Holley to overcome the fact that you really have some questions with him as a tackler and commitment tackling. And another guy like Halsey a little bit on, does he like to get off blocks? Does he like to take great pathways to the ball carrier? You can feel from these safeties sometimes when they're always consistently wanting to get downhill and get in on the play versus kind of like, they're going to just kind of look the part. They're going to look like they're moving hard to get, it's a lot of like doing this, but they're going slow motion to the pile kind of things,
Yeah, it's like in the NBA when players are fighting, they're trying to look like they actually want to punch each other, but they're their teammates holding them back.
Everything gets like this, like elbows start like, oh, I'm gonna do something here. I'm gonna do something, It's like,
yeah, but they're not trying to miss their game checks.
No, always trying to get fine.
Let's see here. Zaki Wheatley of Penn State. This is one that resonated a little bit more with me. 24 years old, did not do anything at the combine. He's very tall, not heavy or anything, doesn't really have long arms, but he is very tall, and he's had pretty good production on that Penn State defense the last couple of years. His coverage numbers in particular, he almost never gets targeted somehow. About a 3rd round pick in the aggregate. How do you feel about Mr. Wheatley?
I love Zaki Wheatley a lot. Cover 2 shell guy, slot fluidness that he's shown. I think he's got good change of direction, even at being 6'2". I think he's explosive as an athlete. I think his coverage instincts are great. I think that there was a lot of what Penn State had him do was run a lot of man and zone versus some of these other safeties that have had to kind of gravitate towards living in one or the other. Allowed a minuscule number of yards through coverage through week 14 of this last year, just 36 yards. 8 yards being the longest completion he was credited with giving up at that time. He has progressively gotten better all 4 years as a starter. This is one of the things that I always look for in these guys. We see so much fluctuation year to year on these guys, or we have like the Clemson crew who will give you like that good sophomore year, but here comes the junior year when you're supposed to show out and you just lay an egg. Here's a guy all 4 years of his college career kept getting better as a player. I take that as a hallmark sign of a guy that's going to get to the NFL level as a hard worker and probably will continue to get better as a player then because of it. I think he's improved as a tackler throughout his time, mainly in one of the main spots. He's always been good in coverage, but I think as a tackler, he's really come along. He's got a great torpedo-like technique with how he comes in, and he could do some wrap and roll stuff as well. I like him probably a little more in the single high situations, but I think that he's grown into being a guy that can operate a little bit more in the box, especially playing a little bit in the slot as he's been asked to do at times. I think he's a very safe player in this draft. Maybe not a star potential as far as the upside of ceiling, but I think there's some real solid floor here that you can get to really fast with this kid. This is a plug and play starter, in my opinion, that you're getting into probably late or middle of day 2. Oh, you're muted.
My bad. I like Wheatley too. I went late 2nd round on him. I liked him more than I thought I would. He's got good zone instincts. He's very willing to come up against the run. His coverage numbers in 2025 were excellent. He got targeted 10 times all season. And I know he missed a little bit of time, but he didn't miss enough to justify that. He covers ground well. He's a decent athlete. I don't want to put him in the box full time, and his man coverage is not great. But some of his issues can be coached up too. Like, he's not a great tackler, but I think he can become a better one. So overall, I think that the thing about Wheatley is that he's versatile, but he's not good enough in any one particular area to be a super high draft pick. So that's kind of what McDonald wants, right? He doesn't want somebody who's a superstar in one area and a complete negative in another area. He wants guys that are just kind of able to do a variety of things well.
Yeah, I think that's very true. This is the key, I think, on all defenders in his defense. And this is both at the fronts to linebackers, to corners to safeties. The more you can do, the more variance and different positions I can put you into, the better my defense can be, because the better I'm able to disguise and confuse offenses, which sits at sort of the centerpiece of what we do defensively. There's a lot of things we want to do defensively: play physically, play violent, rally to the ball. But at the forefront of it, you want to confuse them before you even start the play. And you're able to do that if you can have guys who can go from position A all the way to position D as far as the potential movement. First, what we've had in the past from guys that you're for safety here, you're going to be either up here or you're going to be out over here. And then you're a box guy, you'll either be coming down in the box or you'll be trying to rob the routes over the middle of the field. And now it's like, no, I'm going to move you into all these different places. My safety can become my linebacker. My free safety can become my outside cornerback. And this is the kind of guy that could definitely, I think, fit into that style of defense just very fluidly.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, late second round for me. I love him.
And I've got early third round grade on him just because you do have a 24 years old, little bit of an older player here. It's finished product, so it is plug and play, but there is, I think, the limitation to the ceiling upside necessarily as well.
Yeah, but if we got him at 64, I think you'd be okay with that, right?
Yeah, I'm all right with that. I'm not getting mad.
Jaylen Kilgore, fun name here. Jaylen Kilgore. Some people think he's a corner, by the way, so maybe you're getting two for the price of one, or none for the price of one. Sometimes they end up being neither. Who knows? But South Carolina, I don't think he played with Emanuel, because I think he transferred to South Carolina last year, but seems like there's a little bit of a relationship there. Seems like they know each other and they like each other. I think somebody said that Kilgore was at the parade to support Emanuel. I could be wrong about that. But 21 years old. Oh, go ahead.
No, you please go.
Yeah. So he's kind of tall. He's kind of big. He's bigger than typical safety, got long arms, and he's a great athlete as well. So there's some stuff to really like here. There's also some stuff to be concerned about. Where do you fall on Mr. Kilgore?
Played a lot of safety out there, slot out there past year, 3-year starter. And with 21 years old, just barely turning 21 years old, by the way. So that, keep in mind, this is just a pup. And that this guy to me has a lot of room in his game to grow, and he's going to get better as a player. He is not a finished product. And that's really the most important thing for him with me. He has played slot, strong safety, free safety. He's done it all. He is very solidly put together, I think, for his weight and size, speed. We look at a lot of these guys 6'2" at barely 200 pounds, and it's like they probably play at the field like 190. And this is a guy to me that plays out at that size in the slot with the 4.4 and the 1.56. So you've got the nice weight on him with the movement abilities, the athleticism, which I just really like. He's brought 9 career picks, and many of those picks earned, by the way. I mean, there's picks where he makes where it's like he's got the makeup speed that 4.4 shows up on, where a guy can beat him on like a wheel route, and the quarterback sees it, and he's got 3 yards of separation, and he throws that thing in the back of the end zone and even kind of leads his guy a little bit. But then this extra speed and quickness suddenly with Jaylen just picks up in a heartbeat, and he's on top of the route, high pointing the ball and making the pick, turning back for it. Just really, really impressive tape, especially not just on the highlights, but just in the snap in and snap out, how he played. I thought he was a good tackler as well. I think he's solid in zone, but I think he's really good in man. So I think he's got ability to play different coverage types and how you roll him. I do think as well that while he could live in slot, and he could probably be a solid slot for you in the NFL, another guy to me that I look at a little bit like Ramsay, where I go, but if I could put him full-time in a safety position, that's where I would like to have Matt. That's where he needs to be. The downside is with him a little bit is I think he's a little bit less like Emanuel's tape last year, not always engaged, not always like consistently there, snapping and snap out all the time. So you got to lock that in, but he's a young kid. So maybe that can kind of grow with time, as well. But I really liked him a lot, put him into that safety position.
Yeah. One thing that's interesting here is, according to Pro Football Focus, and by the way, pour out of 40 for the boys over there. Just
I know, man. It's sad. Yeah. It's sad.
But according to Pro Football Focus, Jaylen Kilgore was targeted in coverage a total of 122 times over the last 2 years, which is really high. Does that concern you at all? Like, that is literally like 3 or 4 times what we see for some of these other players.
I think what you have here is you got a guy who goes 4'4", 156 and 6'1", 210. He's got all these things that are like what we had with, like, for instance, we've got him with Emanuel McNeel-Warren. I can bring this guy into the slot and he can operate like a linebacker, and I can have him down here. And it's what like works at college versus what works best for the player. Like, and yeah, okay, he can come down there and be really active around that, but like, is he better more as a coverage guy? Yeah, he kind of is. Was he better kind of in having the ability to be a little bit off coverage and read things a little bit and give him a little bit more time? Yeah, I do feel like the more time he gets, a little bit more to read versus being right there at the line of scrimmage. Well, that's where he can kind of get by to me as a slot, and he can make do, but he can excel as a safety. And so when you talk about him being hyper targeted, I'd reckon to guess that a high amount of those targets, Brendan, of those 100, probably 80% came with him operating out of the slot. And where I would look to go with him is like I would do with Caleb Downs. I'd have this guy living in that Coby Bryant role. You are a safety. That's what your position will be. There'll be some snaps here and there. We'll put you down the slot and you're going to be fine at it, but we're not going to have you live there. And I felt like he was asked to kind of live there a little bit more than he should have been.
Mm-hmm. But I do appreciate him. He's got length and strength to play in press as well. Like if you put him in press cover situations, which I don't know if you will, but he can do it. He's a good tackler. Although he does miss a fair few, he also makes a fair few. Good in zone, high ball production over the last couple of years, 7 interceptions, 15 passes defensed. I don't know if he'll be great on a downfield level. He doesn't play as fast as his 4.4 40 time to me. And there's like a lot to dislike here. I went 3rd round, but I did say buyer beware. So yeah, I go 3rd round. I think it's fine. I like it. I don't know if he's a great fit for this defense because I think he's more of a box safety / slot corner type, but it's not bad.
Yeah, I think I've got a little more trust and faith on that than you do, because we do have the snaps with him at safety and slot versus the slot last year. Like we've got those snaps in prior years of being able to see him there. And I just thought there was a little bit more comfortableness, back there. But I think the tackling stuff is fair. Again, to a guy that is just a turn in 21, where it's like you look at the guys that you can project to have more upside, and that if they've got the physical tools and they're young, and then they've had the really good tape and the production on tape playing in the SEC, that's one of my golden markers for I'm going to always be a little bit higher on those type of cats, because history's been on my side with those type of cats.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we got this super chat here from Feed Me OG. Thoughts on the Jaylen Waddle news that just came out. I haven't heard anything about Jaylen Waddle in the last couple of minutes here. The only NFL news I see, and this is notable too, is that Caleb McGarry is retiring, the Atlanta Falcons right tackle. I did hear about that, and also the Falcons have signed Jawan Taylor to try to replace him. I have not heard anything about...
Rest in peace, Michael Penix's knees.
Yeah, and don't forget about Tua's head, right? Because that's going to get involved too.
Oh, jeez.
Shout out Kirk Cousins for getting out of there in time, I guess.
I guess so, man. Just in the nick of time.
But let's see here. Jaylen Waddle, are you seeing anything out there?
I'm not seeing anything.
Yeah, I mean, the trade was a couple of weeks ago, so it's not that. Yeah, I don't see anything about Jaylen Waddle. So if you want to elaborate in chat, or if somebody knows what's going on here.
I don't see anything. I just look for like the last hour, and there's nothing that's
Yeah, I don't see anything. I mean, granted, X's search feature is pretty terrible, but I'm looking. I don't see it. Sorry.
Yeah, you might have gotten hit by some weird link or something. There's a lot of those false links going out there, but nothing I see mentioned.
Yeah, they're literally like twice a day. My parents will tell me like, "Hey, did you hear about how Earl Thomas has contracted cancer?" Or, "Hey, did you hear about how Sam Darnold was cheating on his wife with Anthony Bradford's girlfriend?" And it's like, you got to get off Facebook. Stop looking at Facebook.
Well, I think he's probably referencing too. It's a Dolphins Wire had a report out about the coach defending why they kept veteran defender over moving Waddle, and then there's maybe some questions with Waddle on the work ethic front or something, I think, that are being intimated here based on what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I'm not even seeing that.
Which I mean, that's it's probably a little bit of damage control for Miami too here, Feed Me, because they're trying to sell their fandom on kind of going into a bit of a rebuild, and they're doing kind of weird moves like they do. It's like, well, we're gonna pay all this money for this quarterback, but then we're gonna trade, the same guys that we need to have him help, especially no Tyreek Hill. Mm-hmm. Miami's kind of back to operating in some kind of weird middle ground at times in their approach. Yeah.
I mean, I like the Waddle trade. I think it was a good trade. Don't get me wrong, but Yeah, I'd go a little bit further. I'd trade Achan too. I'd probably look to do a couple other things as well. You go all the way. Go all the way.
Yeah, I mean they haven't even gotten HN on that extension. They just put the 4 years of void money on the end of the deal. Like, so you're rewarding him, but then you're not rewarding him. But like, what do you do? What are you doing? They just don't make a lot of sense still to me as an organization.
Yeah. All right. Real quick here, just one more time. I want to quickly shout out Prize Picks one more time here. Prize Picks, they are sponsoring both of us this year. Want to go ahead and throw this up here. The app, the number one sports app in the world right now. You can use promo code HMA to get instantly $50 when you play your first $5 lineup over there. You can do some daily fantasy type stuff over there. They've got all kinds of fun stuff you can do, even culture stuff. Go check it out. You may need to be on a casino's Wi-Fi in order to access all of the features. But there's a lot of fun stuff to do over there. So use promo code HMA on Prize Picks and have yourself some fun. It feels good to be right.
$5 lineup, $50 back in your pocket. Can't beat that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, we also got this from Holy Hand Grenade. Y'all see the Vrabel news? Yes, that I did see. But I also don't really care.
I didn't either. I thought that everybody was married in that whole thing too. Didn't Vrabel have that whole quote a couple years ago? Like, I'll chop off half my manhood to get a Super Bowl victory. Didn't he have that whole quote?
Maybe that's why they lost the Super Bowl to us. He didn't.
And he still lost half his manhood. He's probably sitting there like,
Mm-hmm.
oh.
Yep. Well, I mean,
makes that loss sting a little bit more.
Yeah. Good luck getting back there with that schedule is all I can say about that. But yeah, I did see.
He did have a great line. He's like, she'll just have to make do with the 6 inches remaining. It's a pretty good line.
Yeah. I have an appreciation for Vrabel. I know he's a meathead, but I like him.
I do too.
Mm-hmm. All right. A couple more guys here. First is Bud Clark, although this guy may be more of a slot corner than a safety. Depends on your perspective. Pretty small. He's, by safety standards, tiny, 188 pounds. Arm length is actually still okay, though. So that's kind of a saving grace here. He tested fairly well. Good 40, good vertical. So give me your thoughts on TCU's own Bud Clark.
Yeah, we're just talking about Quinn Lake, slot guy there for the Rams. And I think that this guy's kind of got a player comp as being maybe a little bit marginally more improved version of Quentin Lake. I do think he's probably more of a slot. He was Mr. Everything out there for TCU. Mainly played box safety and strong safety, but still a healthy amount of free intermixed in there. He's got a nose for the ball, 15 interceptions last 4 years. And he's got that Peanut Tillman punch he's bringing too. So he can take away the ball, which is really interesting. I thought he was pretty nice out there at Senior Bowl. I will say that the safety position didn't exactly pop at the Senior Bowl for me, Brendan, when I was watching it, where there's a lot of guys that were standing out. I thought he had a couple times that he made some good plays with the pedal down, smart. I think he's stronger in zone coverage than you're going to have as in man, a good run defender overall, strong tackler. Getting off block sometimes can take him a bit of extra time to work himself free. And there are times he's another one of those guys. It's kind of weird how the combination of this deal works, isn't it, Brendan, where they both are, takes you time to get off the blocks and your pathway to the ball carrier doesn't seem to be the best. Isn't it weird how that, like, those guys that have those kind of issues to the game have those two things both connected? It's almost like sometimes fire and desire, and a little bit on that. Yeah. Old prospect, did test really great. So you got a little bit of extra age, team captain. I think there's a lot of good things here that you could work off of with him. And I know he's played a lot of safety. I do think that my feeling was like maybe a little bit more of got to work into more of a slot to a zone centric defense was a little bit of maybe my outlook on it when I came away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like him a lot. I mostly look at him as a slot corner, granted, but a lot of ball production. He's got 7 picks over the last 2 seasons. He's great closing. Nickel versatility is really valuable. He reads and reacts to route combos pretty well. He's got high-end speed. For whatever reason, it felt like he got beat over the top a lot in his career. He didn't necessarily give up a ton of catches, but the catches he did give up were kind of big. He's not very strong. He's lean. He's also gotten hurt a decent amount in his college career. And I don't know about him in man because the movement skills aren't totally there, but I think he'll be a really good nickel corner for the right defense. I am a fan. I'd maybe go early third after thinking about it for a little bit. I'd go early third and feel like, okay, he's a nickel corner. I'm not even really going to, I'll think about the safety stuff as a bonus. And in this draft, I think that's valuable.
And I went just more for, because your points about over the top, and sometimes the farther away you get him off the line of scrimmage and dropping to depth like that, the more you can get uncomfortable, I think, with some of those throws. And that's where I don't know if I can trust him as much to the safety position per se on the often. And I think he more lines into that slot only role, which is why I put him more into the like early fourth, but still a solid player.
Mm-hmm. All right. We also have another super chat from Feed Me More. I love how, yeah, $5. I love how Jesse said before 2024 season, we go off past seasons, but now that the Seahawks are number one, well, the Rams are better on paper. Such a hypocrite. So this is Jesse, the Niners guy on Roundtable, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There was the talk about like, had Rams overtaken it, and like, it's just to me kind of a silly conceptually wise. And this is something I'm always going to bristle at, Brendan, when you try to take football and you try to take everything down to a simplified state of things, where it's like, well, with OJ McDuffie and this guy, and then you guys lost Walker and then Woolen and Mafe and Bryant. So then that equals out to then we better. And it's like, it's such a simplistic view. It's like, number one, we're not done. John's going to continue to add to this roster beyond just the draft. But number two, beyond that, just adding that alone doesn't make you better. We beat you 2 of 3 times, and we could have beat you 3 times if the final field goal attempt at the end of the game in your house had gone through on a day where you had 4 interceptions. So that's like, doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, well, it's just this, they were this close. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. I mean, those games were competitive, but at the same time, I do feel like that, there was a moment in that NFC Championship game where we were about to basically pack that game away early in the fourth quarter. And then the Woolen thing happened, and Woolen's not even here anymore. And I know Woolen was a good player for us last year. I'm not saying he was bad, but what I am saying is that I think there's some stuff in that game that was kind of outside the bounds of playing football, because what Woolen did had nothing to do with playing football. It had to do with the plays over and what he's doing then. I don't want to take away from the fact that the Rams were competitive in that game, but at the same time, I look at that game and I go, I think we were about to like put that on ice, and then some stuff outside the realm of football happened to kind of bring it back in.
Agreed. And then you talk about Woolen. Woolen's had a couple games against the Rams in recent years. That's almost, when we're playing Rams, it's almost better for us that he's not out there versus some of the stuff that he's had happen there in recent years when you have played the Rams. So I really don't, I don't buy into this whole talk that you make these 2 signings and it just, what it screams to me is that everybody out there nationally loves to gravitate towards and just loves to be at the knees of the Rams and loves to worship at the knees of the Rams and constantly talk about how they're the best things than sliced bread. And it gets old. It gets old after we just won the Super Bowl. And I'm not a big respect guy. I don't care about national perspective, not respecting this, but I am going to just absolutely dunk on these dumb opinions because they all come from a real simplified state. They're not deep thinkers into it. They don't understand why we won in the first place, quite frankly. They're still confused as to how we did it because you're not understanding what it is that separated us last year. Why did we win? Just having better players? Do you think maybe the process, the approach from the general manager, the approach from the front office, our specific way we go about our business might have aided in that just a little bit? But nobody looks at that. It just comes down to like player. It's just the stagnant like player thing. And it's dumb. It's a stupid way of looking at the sport.
Yeah, it does kind of, that is a good way to observe it. It does kind of feel like people are looking at our Super Bowl win last year and they're like, how did that happen? That was weird. Like they don't totally get it. Even experts. Like it's not like in 2013 when we won the first Super Bowl.
Exactly.
I feel like people really understood like, wow, this is an historically great defense. It makes sense why this team won. But this year, I don't think people understand it. And that's not a bad thing. I don't mind being the team that kind of sneaks up on you. But you're right.
No.
There's that dynamic.
And I think you're right. This surprise is absolutely right. It's that team had a year to build up with the team that won the Super Bowl to legitimize themselves. We just came out of nowhere. But just because you got caught surprised doesn't mean you continue to make the same mistake in your outlook of this team then going forward. And I see a lot of the same type of groupthink towards the Seahawks this offseason that was very much in place last year during the DK Metcalf trades, during the Geno Smith trades, during the signing of the Sam Darnold, where it's that same kind of application where I go, boy, didn't you guys learn your lesson? Didn't you guys, you ate crow throughout the whole end of the year for that horrible, and you're going right back into the same boat again. It's kind of surprising to see, but like you said, I think it's a good thing for us. Let us continue to fly beneath the radar like stealth bombers. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Upo, thank you for the 10. Love the Sean Taylor reference. A guy that can win games single-handedly from the safety spot is the unicorn. Don't have that in this class, though. Yeah, I don't know if Sean Taylor got to that level in the NFL, but he had the talent to do it, and he was viewed that way coming out. So I think it's the comp.
I think he got pretty close. I mean, he was cut down right in the middle of his ascent there at that time with the whole break-in he had at his house. But it is a great reference, and it is representatory of what you should hope to expect if you're going to grab this particular position in this spot of the draft. You go top 10. You can talk all day about weak draft, strong draft, but if you're grabbing a guy like that spot, there should be an expectation this is the kind of guy you're getting. And be it Sean Taylor or the guy that went, I think, at 12 with the Ravens, but Kyle Hamilton, like you're shooting for the stars. And I love Caleb Downs, but you're not really shooting for superstar potential there when you're picking him. And that's where, to me, when these teams look at it, and if there's anything that's of merit, Brendan, to the whole knee situation, because I've heard some back and forth on this. I don't know what you've heard. If there's anything to that, it would seem to me to add up to that this is the draft day faller at that point, where everyone's all sure going into the draft, because we always have these kind of guys, right? Will Johnson was that guy last year. We're leading up to like a weekend out of the draft, Brendan. He was a consensus top 15 kind of pick, got all the way into the second round by draft day. We'll see with this one with Caleb, but that makes it hard for me. If I'm picking in that top 10 spot where it's like, yeah, maybe go take the tackle, right? Maybe go get that edge rusher, right? Like versus kind of going for that more high floor guy safety in the top 10.
Yeah. And it's kind of a fun exercise to think about who is the greatest prospect at each position in the history of the NFL draft process. Like, quarterback, I'd say either Andrew Luck or John Elway. Tight end, I'd say maybe honestly Brock Bowers, but that I don't know if that's true or not. It's an interesting thought. Wide receiver could be Calvin Johnson. And I think for safety, it's Sean Taylor.
I think Sean Taylor, you can make as good an argument as just about anybody. I think, Easley was pretty good coming out too. I know that's a deep cut reference, but yeah, I think you could make that's as good as you're going to find out there.
Feed me more. Thank you for the 2. We all knew they're going 6-11, but we go off past season. Okay, I see. Okay, I think I see what's going right. Well, Jesse has his own problems with what the Niners are probably going to do this year. Apparently, Kittle's going to try to come back for week 1, so we're going to get 2 games of George Kittle, and then he's tearing the other Achilles, and that's the end of Kittle's career probably.
You got to remember, too, that Jesse's been traumatized. He just had to watch the Seattle Seahawks go win a Super Bowl championship in his house, knowing his Niners were on the slow boat to their death. Like they're on that slow boat to that Super Bowl window closed. And all they're doing right now is they're just kind of propping it up for an inch so it can close right back down. They think they're like, oh, we're extending it. It's like, no, you're just extending out your own doom. You're just extending out your own suffering. And Jesse knows it in the depths of his heart. And within that, then he's got to act out and, not give us the cred or be like, you guys definitely can't repeat this year. Because he can't even think about that possibility. Seahawks winning another Super Bowl in the Rams' house after they did the 49ers. That's that stuff you don't come back from. That's the stuff that like nobody in this division can ever say anything ever again to us. Like, you got that done? We did this. What? So I think he knows. They got a sense for it. They're like, this can't happen. This can't happen. It's happening.
Yeah, and I get it too. I don't want the Rams to win the Super Bowl next year in their own house, but that is a realistic possibility. And if it happens, I'm not going to like it, but it may happen.
Yeah. Doesn't land with the same force of us in the 49ers house, though, after we won the division for a second time in the same season. Doesn't have the same. It's nice, but it doesn't,
Yeah, that's one benefit to having your football team play in kind of a crap hole city. You don't have to worry about hosting the Super Bowl.
There you go.
And not that I'm the biggest fan in the world of LA, but it's certainly more Super Bowl worthy than Seattle is right now, I think.
True. Though they did build that thing in Inglewood, dude, which going through there this last year, I was like, oh, we're putting the stadium here, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they knocked down Hollywood Park to build that stadium. I'm not cool with that. That's not okay.
Yeah, it's not it's all right. It's an okay area.
Let's see here. One last guy. This is our final guy. And this one's another interesting one because some people think he's a corner. It's Traden Stukes of Arizona. A little bit taller than your typical safety, 190. So he's kind of lean. He's got decently long arms. He tested phenomenally well, like freakishly well. 4.3, 340, 1.5, 10-yard split. Vert was good, not over the top, but good. And it's unclear exactly what he is, but he might be both. And that's pretty cool. But how do you read Traydon Stukes?
Super fast, man. I mean, he's blazing fast, and definitely the tape does show that. A guy that is maybe going to be more slot than he's going to be safety. I don't know if I've got a hard line opinion on this one, but 400 snaps last year at the slot compared to only 200 for the safety position. A lot of that operating there gets downhill great in the run game from the safety spot. A really willing tackler, great ball skills, just really good at turning his ball back to the ball at just the right precipitous moment to be able to get there. Did think steady at getting off blocks, good at getting in the run game, good at tackling. He's been in college for 6 years. He's got a torn ACL on the books. So you do wonder a little bit about that. And I do think that though the straight line explosion is there, I think the change of direction, there are some questions there, which is probably a little bit back to, does he really bode well for the slot in the future, or does he probably got to go to more of a safety position? But then do you have enough, at the safety position to go off of to have that confidence versus how he's been used in college? Going to be a little bit of a question with this guy when you're drafting him, but you do have some really legit explosion that shows up, and he plays with a good gear. I love his pre-snap to post-snap instincts as well. Does seem like he always typically is flowing in the right direction of the play. He's going to go where the run game's going. He's not going to get misdirected a lot. I thought he was a very smart player in that way, but it is a little bit of an experiment here, because I think what you're going to see him have to do is probably transition to more safety because of the lack of change direction. And then that probably now you're going to have to see if that can work as a live fire exercise rather than having really saw it on tape in college.
Yeah, I'm into this one. I think he's got the opportunity to play outside corner, inside corner, safety, and that gives you some room for error. You can fail out at one spot and still go to the other spot and be okay. It's kind of like being a left tackle in the NFL. If you fail out at left tackle, you can go to the right side. If you fail out there, maybe you can slide inside if you're short enough. And you'll probably find some place where you're good, kind of like how Justin Britt did. That's exactly what happened with Britt. He failed at right tackle, he failed at guard, but he was a pretty good center. So I like that.
Well, to your point, you got ball skills, you're a good tackler, you get off blocks. Yeah, you're going to, and you're explosive, right? Like I'm going to find that a place for that somewhere in my defense. The 4.4-1.5 guy that tackles and has ball skills, who's got decent size too, not bad size as well. I'll find that fit. I don't know where it is, but I agree with you. I think that you can build up a decent amount of confidence to say that there is a fit to be found.
Mm-hmm. He's got good size. He's got good length. He understands zone. He's got good ball skills. He's a firm tackler. He's smart. Now, I don't think he's a great mover. He's got great straight line speed. I don't think he's a great mover. He's got segmented hips, which is going to be an issue when he's trying to flip his hips to chase downfield. So there's a lot to like here. So I would even go like late second round here. I'm kind of like, I like the idea of getting a utility player here who brings legitimate talent to the table here. He's not just some anonymous utility guy who's just kind of okay at everything. He's actually got a lot of overall talent to go with it.
And I'm more of a early fourth round grade on it, just because I don't trust in the slot stuff to hold up at the next level. So I do think he's more restricted into being a safety long-term, and that there is a little bit of a question in that being a place that he's most comfortable to play. Mm-hmm. It very well could prove to be that, but I just have those questions, which is why I pushed that down a little bit further on my board.
Yeah, that's totally fair. He was just kind of one of the guys that I ended up liking more than most people did in this class. So that is it for the players we're going to look at. There are other safeties, but we're not going to spend time on them, like Lewis Moore, the Indiana guy, Jacoby Thomas, the Miami guy, VJ Payne. I actually like. There's some unique stuff going on there, but we're not going to talk about him.
He's a run to the spot guy. Like that's the thing with him, is that I worry about him in zone coverage and getting to he's a guy that's kind of has to play downhill, and I think he's got to go to right defense to do that. I don't know if this would be the right defense. I like him though. He's not a bad player, Brendan. So VJ's all right. It's just, that was my worry with him.
Yeah. And that is going to take us home. So that is our look at the safety class in this draft, and maybe a future Seattle Seahawk in there. I'm not against the idea. I think that there are good players, and we could use some of those good players. We don't have a lot of safety depth right now. it's DeAnthony Bell and Rodney Thomas, and both those guys may not be on the team when the season starts.
And you got both guys under 1 year of contract. So I think that there's a very good chance that this is a position that you see of those guys we talked about today, that we grab one of these guys in this draft, because you've got to have a long-term plan for this future. And John's not going to want to just be reactive and be like, oh, maybe I got to find 2 new safeties next year if we can't get a deal done with Julian Love. You don't want to get into that predicament. So you're going to start to get that hedged out ahead of time. And these safeties are fits to this defense across the board in a variety of places you can pick them in this draft. So I do think that this is one that we will see the take in here, Brendan. I think it is a bit of a necessity to a degree. Doesn't mean you have to reach for need necessarily, but certainly a couple places in this draft, a guy falls in the right spot that you like a lot. They will, I think, jump on him with 2 feet.
Corsos de Gutierrez, thank you for the $4.99. If Levi Stadium is now called Lumen South, what will SoFi be called after we go back to back? Any suggestions? CenturyLink South, Lumen Down Under. Huh.
I like Lumen Down Under. That's pretty good. Lumen Phi.
Yeah. Okay. Lumen Phi.
About Lumen Phi a little bit, or
Yeah.
Hawk House instead of Inglewood.
Yeah. I mean, if we do go back to back next year and win a Super Bowl in the other rival's house, that's got to carry you for like a good 30 years almost as a fan, doesn't it?
I mean, it doesn't get better than that. We got to remember with where we're at, like there are these fans that have been rooting for these teams for years that have never seen their team do anything. Buffalo Bills fans, Minnesota Vikings fans. Think about these folks and then think about what we would have on the other side of that if we could pull this off. And I think, as I say, no fandom gets to celebrate and enjoy more of their Super Bowl and just really appreciating it more than us. I've seen it throughout this offseason from my fans in the 12s online, and you guys are doing it right. You're really savoring this in the way that you should. You're not just looking instantly next year's. We're already doing a little bit of that, but we're all just enjoying this. And boy, we would enjoy it going back to back and having it in their house back to back like that. Just too good. I like your Lumen Down Under though. That's a pretty good one there, Corsos. I don't know if I can beat that one. That's pretty good.
All right. So that'll do it for this show. And next week, we have one more position we could do a show on, and it's kind of defensive tackle / nose tackle. I don't think it's a position the team is likely to be overly motivated to attack, but I think there's something to be said about the idea of the fact that this team doesn't have a true nose tackle right now. We have a bunch of 3 techs. So if you wanted to talk about that, because this is a good nose tackle class, you could. To me, that's the only other position that is worth really digging into right now. Not to say we can't draft another player. We could draft a linebacker. If we draft CJ Allen in the first round, I'm down with that. But I don't think it's really worth exploring at this moment. So, yeah.
I'm with you. I think maybe what we'll do is look at just a couple of select guys, defensive tackle wise and inside linebacker, just do a target on the up the middle, defensive show. Because there's a couple linebackers we can talk about just in principle, but I agree with you. I think that defensive tackle is certainly in position here. You have Jaron Reed last year of his deal. You've got Leonard Williams, a potential of last year of his deal. And then maybe with both those 2 guys looking at not just last year of their deal, but maybe retirement in addition to it. And that does mean that this becomes one where it is a little bit of a quiet need and one worth looking at, because this is one of those weird years, Brendan, where there's actually every year, how many years have we been looking through this, where every year it seems like we got 2 nose tackles throughout the whole draft of any kind of value. And then that's it. Whereas this year you actually got some interesting guys in almost every single round.
Yeah. And also to be fair, this 3 tech class is cheeks. It's like, I was talking about it the last few days on my channel. The 3 techs in this class are like about as bad as it gets, I think.
Yep. I've got 1 3 tech rated, 2 3 techs in the second round, none in the first round, 2 in the third round. And then I don't know, I might have 1 in the fourth, maybe. So
yeah, I think the aggregate has 3 in the top 100.
That feels about right. That does feel about right. It's Holden, it's Durant, and it's Caleb Wood. It's Caleb Banks, Peter Woods, Holden, and Durant. Those are your 4 top side guys in that top, basically around that 100 mark. And they don't exactly fly. Christian Miller.
Miller might be a nose tackle. It depends. It could go one way or the other to me.
He's tweener. He might.
That's
we've
the
seen
problem.
sub 300 pound guys. Yeah, because he's sub 300 pounds and he doesn't play with the leverage of like a Byron Murphy. So you go, I don't know if that's going to work.
All right. So that'll do it for today. Thank you everybody for coming out. We actually had pretty good engagement today. People cared about these safeties a little bit. And
Let's go.
yeah, this draft is what, 2 weeks away approximately, actually, because it's the 23rd this year. So we're right up against it, man. And we are going to go ahead and exhaust our coverage, and we are going to get to the bottom of all of this. So thank you, Brandon, for doing this with me today.
Appreciate you, brother. Love it.
Yeah.
Love going through this as always.
Once again, thank you to Prize Picks for sponsoring the show. And guys, we are just a couple weeks away from the last big swing of the 2026 NFL offseason, and then we settle into hibernation. So get hyped, because there's not going to be necessarily a lot to get hyped about after this is over. I know we don't have a lot of picks. I know the draft isn't the sexiest in the world, but it's still your best opportunity for the rest of this offseason to go Hawks.
Go Hawks.